I was born and raised in this area, had a pretty solid childhood. We weren't perfect, but then again, who is? Did pretty well in school, went off to college to pursue my degree in engineering. Late teens, my faith was pretty non-existent. At that time, I was pretty much just focused on myself and my goals and getting my degree. Being a teenager at college, having this freedom, I found myself pursuing things that weren't probably always the greatest decisions, but that, in hindsight, looking back, I was trying to fill this void, and I would need more and more of whatever I thought would bring me a fullness or happiness, but ultimately would just leave me feeling empty. And my beliefs were very much atheistic, or if there was a God, he was passive and or just not good in general. So ultimately got my degree and moved back home, started working out in the plants, and actually was working down the hall from Pastor Greg's son, who I went to high school with and was a friend of mine, and he had asked me to have lunch, and then from there also invited me to just talk about my faith. And we actually started reading through the book of John. Over the coming weeks, was reading through that, answering questions, and ultimately, me being somewhat of a analytical mind, I reached a spot where I had to decide what I believed about Jesus. And I remember kind of questioning like what was happening inside of me, going from very much an atheist to now I'm a believer. Between all the head knowledge I'd acquired about what it means to be a Christ follower, and then what was moving in my heart, I made that choice to just surrender and step over the line of faith, and then go public with my faith in beach baptism. Even in the midst of several years of getting to grow in my faith, getting plugged into ministries, even getting to be a part of a local church plant, I think in the midst of all the mileage that I racked up over those journeys over those several years, it started to take a toll on me. And a couple years back, I just flat out hit a wall. And the only way I can describe it is I began to walk through a season where I experienced just the full spectrum of debilitating anxiety, which I had never experienced before. Externally, people would never know you're dealing with it because it's, for the most part, an internal struggle. If I'm being honest, there were days where I just felt overwhelmed and frankly hopeless. Even with all the faith background, you hit these spots where you're like, I don't think that I can ever work my way through this. I remember one pivotal day, my wife was with me, and I remember just clenching my hands, and I got to the spot where I just told Chelsea, like, I fear that I'll never be able to be the man that I want to be. I believe the Lord was speaking through Chelsea. She took my hands and she separated them and opened them and said, I don't care about any of those things. Give it to him. Surrender it to the Lord. I decided in that moment that I was going to surrender to the Lord like I had never surrendered before. And for me, that was going to look like day and night time in the Word and also prayer. I also reached out and I met with a incredible counselor who just so happened to be a Christ follower as well, who was extremely helpful with me and to help me process the emotions I was feeling and also look at it through a biblical lens. Although there was ups and downs, that over the course of that season, God stayed true to his promises, and he did deliver me from that season. Scripture says that God has created us and put eternity in our hearts, and I envision that as there being like a God-shaped hole in our heart that's just like pulling this vacuum, and that we all every day we're searching for things to kind of fill that void, and I find myself doing it too, but that ultimately only eternity, only God, only Jesus can fill that void. Only Jesus can make us feel full.